AI can write your scripts now. It can generate your thumbnails. It can repurpose your content into 20 different posts within a matter of seconds. It's getting scary, and honestly, it's only going to get more and more scary. But there is one thing that AI fundamentally cannot do. And it's the exact thing that makes viewers trust you, subscribe to you, come back to you again and again. And if you're using YouTube to build a business, which a lot of you are, even buy from you. And that thing is called storytelling. Now, most people view storytelling as a very creative thing, right? Some people have it, some people don't. You're either born with it or you're not. And to be totally honest with you, I used to think that way as well, until I spent years editing documentaries professionally when I was working as an editor, when I was working behind the scenes with major creators, studying every book on storytelling. I used to work as a filmmaker and editor before getting into this whole YouTube space. And what I found through all of it completely changed how I saw content. See, storytelling isn't just a creative skill. Yes, a massive piece of it is, but it's really also a synthesis to creating brand leverage. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly the framework that I call the attention architecture for how to be able to engineer it into every video that you make going forward. However, before I get into it, it would be really, really dumb of me not to speak on AI when talking about storytelling and content creation right now. AI is genuinely exceptional at mechanics and logic, at structure, at synthesis, at speed. If you need an outline, a list of ideas, if you need repurposed tweets from your last video transcript, AI will beat you every single time. Don't try to compete there because you'll lose. But here's what AI is terrible at. It's horrible at emotion, at lived experience. The organic, human, messy, imperfect way that we actually teach each other things, that's where storytelling lives. That's where AI will never, and I mean never, replace you. I'm not being naive here. I actually had a long conversation with 3 different AI large language models about this very thing. I asked them directly, where are humans irreplaceable in the age of AI content when it comes to creating content? And all 3 of them said in slightly different ways, human emotion, human consciousness, the experience of a real life with real failures, with real turning points, with real feeling. AI has technological intelligence. It does not have human consciousness. And storytelling is where human consciousness lives. Now, just look at what's happening in culture right now. And I've seen a lot of this, especially as a strategist. There is a lot of, or a massive resurgence in things like documentary filmmaking, nature content, real, raw, human, unscripted experiences. People are going back to it because everything around it is getting more generic, more templatized, more manufactured than ever before. The more AI fills the feed, the more valuable the human stuff becomes. Now, what does all this have to do with storytelling? Well, think about what this means for your channel, right? AI content might get views, sure. But when you look at third-party analytics, the analytics that actually matter, when you look at the actual revenue numbers, when you look at conversions, AI content converts horribly. And I know that because on the agency side of my business, we work with clients helping them grow their channels personally, and a few of them create only AI-generated content. The conversions are atrocious. And that's fundamentally because conversion is built on trust. And trust is built on connection. And connection, it's built on story. There's also something happening on the platform YouTube right now that makes this even more urgent that you guys understand story. So YouTube just recently rolled out a feature that basically reads your video's transcription and checks whether other creators in your space have already said something similar to that. And if they have, your video gets deprioritized. Think about what that means. If you are using AI like everybody else to generate your ideas, your talking points or your script, the same way that every other creator in the world is doing right now, you're all going to be saying the same thing. You're all going to blend in, echoing each other in a sea of sameness. And the result is YouTube's going to start punishing that. They already have. The creators who win are going to be the ones who bring something that nobody else can, that no AI can generate, which is their own perspective, their own stories, their voice. Listen, like I said, I'm not naive. I use AI every single day, but within everything, I make sure I use it as the brains. AI just does my grunt work. And the difference really does show in the output. Now that you understand why this is so important, I want to share with you the framework, okay? I call it the attention architecture framework, and it's the system underneath every high retention storytelling video that you've ever watched, or behind every single video with clients I've worked with that have converted well on the revenue side of things. What they all have in common is they all have 3 storytelling layers in the videos. And once you understand these, you cannot unsee them, but way more importantly than that, you'll be able to implement them in your own content. Now, layer one is the open loop engine. The human brain is a problem-solving machine. And the one thing that it physically cannot do is leave a question unanswered, is leave something unresolved. Our brains are literally wired neurologically to hunt for resolution. And that's fundamentally what curiosity is. It's the brain just feeling this itch that it has to scratch. By the way, this whole concept is a psychological principle that's actually referred to by psychologists as the Zeigarnik effect. You may have heard me talk about this before, but not an application to storytelling. Now, most creators use this Zeigarnik effect, when they even understand it, really once in their content. And it's usually only in their hook that they ever use it. And then they basically forget about it the rest of the video. They think, okay, I sparked curiosity in the first 30 seconds. That's it. I'm good for the rest of the 10-minute long video. No, that's completely wrong. And that's just fundamentally not how storytelling, or at least good storytelling, works. And the reason being is because the hook it's just the entry point, right? To just keep somebody watching for the next really like 30 seconds, you need to constantly have a new question being planted. Now, I like to follow what I'm about to share with you as a principle and not a rule. But roughly what I like to do is every 60 to 90 seconds, not a rule, but as a rhythm, I like to ideally try to evoke some sort of curiosity once again. It acts, like I said, as a rhythm, almost like a repeating pulse throughout your entire video that just keeps the viewer's brain engaged, constantly hunting for that resolution. Now, I know it's annoying when people just give you theory. So here's a practical way that I like to think about it. Before I ever write a section in a video, I always literally get this notebook, a Sharpie, and a pen out all the time. And I sit there and I ask myself and actually write them down for every single video. And I actually ask myself, what is the most painful, unresolved question that my audience has right now about this topic that I'm speaking about? And I actually write them down pen to paper. I don't want to be jaded by any AI. I want to make sure that it's all coming from my mind, my personal take on it, because that's going to be unique. Then what I do is I try to find a way to basically surface those painful questions. I don't want to answer them immediately. I just want to surface them. I just want to bring the audience's attention to them so that it really triggers that Zeigarnik effect, that effect where they feel like they need to scratch an itch in their brain. Then I let it breathe. So your brain feels the tension, and then I pay it off. Now, this isn't anything revolutionary. You could read about this concept just articulated differently in literally any storytelling book. But there's a framework for how you structure the tension between those questions and answers that not many people do talk about. And it comes from the creators of South Park, which is a TV show that's been going on for many, many years. And the writers of that show, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, I believe, they gave a talk it was a school, I think it was NYU, I could be wrong. Basically, they gave a talk at one of these schools where they explained how they test every single story beat that they write for that show that actually makes their show so successful. And basically what the rule is if the connective tissue of your story, and what I mean by connective tissue of your story is if you have one story beat here and then another story beat here, like this happened and this happened, that piece where we segue between the two story beats, that's your connective tissue. And if that connective tissue is this story beat happened, and then this story beat happened, and then this story beat happened, you don't have a story. What you have is a list. And that's what's referred to as Wikipedia storytelling. You are just piling on information after information. And you know what's really good at making lists of information? You guessed it, AI. But if the connective tissue is, and once again, this story beat, the connective tissue is how you segue between those two story beats. So if our connective tissue is actually this story beat happened, but this story beat happened. Therefore, this story beat happens, but then now this story beat happens. Therefore, this story beat happens. It's called the but therefore storytelling framework.
We can take these beats, which are basically the beats of your outline, and if the words and then belong between those beats, you got something pretty boring. What should happen between every beat that you've written down is either the word therefore or but.
And when you do it this way, now you have tension. Now you have conflict. Now you have something that pulls the viewer forward instead of just informing them, like the news. Okay, I want to make this even more practical and digestible for you. So I'm going to try to give you two examples. So let's say I'm trying to tell you a story in one of my videos. I started posting on YouTube, and then I got some views, and then I kept posting. Okay, that's super boring and nobody stays for that. That's just gonna get people to click off. So instead, let's try doing this example, but with the but therefore framework. Okay, so let's say, so I started posting on YouTube, but nothing despite my efforts were working. Therefore, I went back and studied deeper than anybody else would, trying to figure out what the best creators were actually doing, reverse engineering. But what I found out completely contradicted everything I'd ever been taught up to that point. So in this example, I'm sure now you want to know what it was that I found, right? That's the open loop engine. That's the Zeigarnik effect in principle. So every section of your video, you should try your best to open something before it closes something. Now, without getting super philosophical on you about this, just to simplify this as much as possible, basically, you want to create curiosity so that you could create tension, release that tension, create more tension, release that tension, create more tension, release that tension. It's very simple. All right, cool. I don't know about you guys. I'm having a blast. I'm having a ton of fun. I love this stuff. And that was only layer one of this entire story architecture system or framework. But before we jump into the second layer, I know all of this can feel very daunting, very overwhelming. I hate when people just give me information and I have nothing to do with it. Like, wow, that was a lot. Now I feel anxiety and stressed out. How am I going to implement this in content? I understand you and I have empathy for you because I've felt that, which is why I wanted to just build something really cool completely for free so that all of you, because I absolutely love this stuff and I want all of you guys to get value from it, but also because I want you guys to be able to apply what you're learning. I don't want you guys to watch my videos and just say, okay, cool. I want you guys to apply it and get value from it. And this GPT was built to allow you to do that. So you're not just taking information, you're actually applying information. It's called the Story Architecture GPT, and it basically helps you guys implement everything you're learning in this video into your educational YouTube videos. Train on all my frameworks and knowledge that lives inside of this guy right here about storytelling and implementing it into content, especially educational content. If your goal is to make YouTube videos that do stand out in order to build a strong personal brand and in order to make money from it, there's nothing wrong with that. Then this free GPT is going to be your absolute best friend, and it's completely free. First link in the description below. Cool, guys. Now let's get into layer two, which is the reliving principle. This one's fun. This one, probably one of my favorites. Okay, so most creators, drives me nuts. They report their stories, but the best ones, the best people creating stories, the best people converting in terms of content, they're making people relive the stories. See, I already told you, reporting is just Wikipedia storytelling. It's a list of events, facts, things that happened. It's accurate, sure, whatever, but it's just completely flat. There's no personality. You know what's incredible at reporting? We already talked about this, AI, okay? But reliving, this is completely different. It literally pulls the viewer into the present tense of the moment, what you saw, what you heard, what you thought, what you felt. And the reason this works isn't just psychological, it's neurological. Like when you give someone a specific sensory present tense experience in the form of a story, their mirror neurons activate. Basically what that means is their brains don't just understand what you went through, it simulates it. They feel it. But really, simply put, storytelling allows you to be empathetic. And empathy is a great way to build connection. Let me give you an example of what I mean. This ties into a psychological principle that I really, really want you to remember if you remember nothing else. There's something called the ostrich effect. So ostriches, the really big birds, they'll sometimes bury their heads in the ground, and humans do the same thing psychologically. When we as humans are faced with something absolutely terrifying, stressful, or anxiety-ridden, overwhelming, something we just don't want to be true, our brain's defense mechanism is to act like it isn't happening. Our brain goes through this denial phase where it's like, listen, if I'm not thinking about it, it doesn't exist. And this is exactly why people avoid checking their bank accounts when they know that they're in debt. That's the ostrich effect. In fact, on April 14th, 1912, the Titanic had just hit an iceberg. The ship is taking on tons of water. It's in the middle of the night. The temperature outside is below freezing. You couldn't even be able to say full words probably because your jaw was so cold. And people were starting to realize that the ship was going down. Panic ensued. Lifeboats started being loaded. People sprinting across, hitting each other, knocking each other over. Pure chaos. The sound of metal groaning as it's breaking and sinking under the weight of the ocean was piercing and evoked so much fear in these poor people on board. And then, in the middle of it all, there were people who, despite the chaos, decided to sit back down at their tables, pick up their hands with a deck of cards in them and continue to play their card game. Despite all that chaos and fear, there were musicians who shrugged their shoulders, picked their instruments back up, began playing them. There were passengers who sat in front of those men playing instruments and just listened calmly, as if nothing was happening, as if the ship wasn't sinking beneath their feet. And as I was reading reports from survivors before sharing the story in this video, it was really interesting because one of the things that was written at this point in time, when these people were in denial, playing card games, listening to music, playing music, there were still some empty seats on lifeboats. These people didn't get on. That's the ostrich effect in its most tragic and literal form. And the same thing is happening to creators right now. The ship is changing. AI is advancing, the platform's shifting, the game is evolving, and some creators are just sitting back down at the card table, playing music, posting the same content, using the same templates, doing what they've always done. While the thing that will actually save them, their humanity, their stories, their voice, it's right there. The lifeboat is there with empty seats on it. It still exists. They're not getting on it. Instead, they're giving it away to AI. That right there, that was the reliving principle in action. You didn't just receive information about the ostrich effect or what I was teaching you, you felt it through that story. And now I guarantee you'll never forget about that principle. Now jumping into layer 3 of the Story Architect, which is the meaning bridge. This layer is really cool because it's really easy to just tell good stories, but it's really hard to tell good stories in order to help teach people. I'm a very visual learner, so I like to think about story as a door, and I like to think about the teaching or the meaning of the story as what people walk through, or kind of like the hallway. This is where so many creators just drop the ball. Because even the creators who do tell good stories, like they'll tell a great story, maybe it's genuinely engaging, maybe it's well delivered, and then they just move on, right? And the viewer is left thinking, okay, that was interesting. So what? What in the world does that have to do with this video? Without the meaning bridge, without the hallway, you've just told a campfire tale. When you focus on walking through the storytelling door, through the hallway, which is the meaning, the transformation, the value, well, with it, you've shifted a perspective. You have taught something, and teaching builds trust in a way that information never will. The bridge is honestly so simple. It's basically just after your story or illustration saying the line, the reason I'm telling you this is because, and then getting into the connection between the two. And that one sentence is basically just an easy one to remember, where your story becomes teaching and teaching becomes trust. It's where the viewer stops thinking about the story and starts seeing themselves in it. Quick side point, Mr. Beast actually does this a lot in a lot of his recent videos. It's a storytelling technique called mirroring, but more on that. It's a slightly different technique than what we're talking about. More on that in a different video. I don't want to add too much on your plate right now. Anyways, it's where basically the viewer can make the connection between what happened to you or the story you're telling and what's happening to them. In fact, there is literally a whole best-selling book on this topic. It's called Storybrand by Donald Miller. And the entire premise of that book is that you can build a significantly more successful business by leading with story rather than leading with information. And if you look at the biggest creator businesses right now, the ones with the most loyal audiences, the ones who convert at the highest rates, they're all doing this, whether they know it or not. Even B2B businesses, business to business, are doing this as well. Like Volvo, they came out with a very story-driven commercial. Their sales after that skyrocketed. Disney just released a beautiful commercial that told an amazing story. Their cruise ship sales after that exploded. Storytelling is the mechanism to everything else being successful, in my opinion. I mean, think about the film industry. Movies, cinema are a creative art form. I love them, but they're also a billion-dollar business. People pay money to sit in a dark room and watch a screen for 2+ hours, not for more information, for story, for the experience of being human through someone else's experience. Your channel is no different. People aren't paying for information. They can get that from ChatGPT or Claude in 30 seconds. What they're paying for is you, your perspective, your story, your ability to make them feel something and then show them what their feeling means. That's the meaning of this bridge layer. You open the loop, you relive the story for them, and then you walk them through the hallway. Now, when you actually really begin to do this, when you begin to implement this attention architecture consistently over time in your content, People start to feel something when they watch your videos. And when people feel something, they now associate that feeling with you, which by the way is personal branding. They don't associate it with the information, not the topic, but with you. And over time, that association becomes something extraordinary. There are creators I subscribe to with no editing, just them talking to camera for almost 2 hours sometimes. And yet I sit through the whole thing straight. I watch every single minute of it because I know that when I see their face, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat the entire time. I've been conditioned. Their name, their face, it triggers something in me before I've ever clicked on one of their videos. That, my friends, is not a vanity metric. That is a business asset and also a personal branding asset as well. Fundamentally, when people trust you that deeply, when they like you that genuinely, your call to actions they don't matter anymore. The conversion has already happened up here. They've already decided that they want to learn from you. They're just waiting for you to tell them how. And right now, we're living in a moment where information has almost no more value. You can get any amount of information in seconds. What people are paying for now and will increasingly pay for is the person delivering it, the human being behind the content, the trust, the likability, the feeling of, wow, this person actually gets me. And they want to be in the same room as you. That's why community-based programs are absolutely exploding right now. That's why standalone courses are absolutely dying right now. People don't want a PDF, they want a person. They want to feel like they're learning from someone who has actually lived the thing they're teaching. And the only way to create that feeling and to do it consistently and at scale is through storytelling. AI will never build that. Only you can. And with that being said, if you guys do want to be within a community of humans who obsess over this stuff and just have a good time, build content-led businesses, and if you want to be able to get on weekly calls with me and ask me whatever you want, pick my brain on topics like this and growing on YouTube and scaling your business and so much more, then I would love to invite you to just check out the YouTube Blueprint. It's going to be in one of the links in the description below, which is a community-based coaching program. And it's at an extremely affordable price that you can join. I'd love to see you guys inside. And before you go, don't forget, if this resonated with you and you want to start building this into your content right now, but feel super overwhelmed, I put together something I think you guys are going to love. I mentioned it earlier. It's a free custom GPT, not to write stories for you, but to help you apply all of the knowledge you learned here. It's going to guide you as a mentor to help you be able to apply the attention architecture framework into your videos, into your content, instead of just being a Wikipedia storyteller where you just report information. It's completely free. I could have charged for it, but honestly, this stuff's awesome. It's fun. And I just want as many of you guys who enjoy it as much as possible, and genuinely give you guys a lot of value. I genuinely, with my entire heart, hope that you got value out of this. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to watch my perspective of breaking down why big YouTuber Ryan Trahan has done exceptionally well as a YouTuber because of his storytelling, then you should watch this video next. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.